We've seen wireless keyboards, but backlit wireless keyboards? Interesting. How about backlit wireless keyboards tailored to your video editing software? This is a keyboard from Editor's Keys, and it's as straightforward as the whole thing sounds. A backlit wireless keyboard overlaid with shortcuts for your NLE of choice. I've got the Final Cut Pro version here because it's what I use the most. They do, however, have versions of this made for a very complete collection of creative apps: Premiere, DaVinci Resolve, AE, Photoshop, Lightroom, Illustrator, Pro Tools, Logic Pro, the list goes on. First question that quite naturally comes to mind is, do I really need this? I'd say for both seasoned editors and for those who are just starting out, there is value to be gained in terms of productivity boosts by having this keyboard on your desk. I know that most editors who've already been editing for a while now would already know most of their keyboard shortcuts by heart. I've been using Final Cut Pro for about the past 5 years, and the shortcuts I use most frequently, I can hit most of them without even looking. But here's a visualization of the number of shortcuts I actually know by heart. This would clearly be different for everyone. There's definitely someone better at this than I am, but I believe I speak for most people when I say it's quite unlikely to have the entire keyboard's worth of shortcuts committed to memory. And with this keyboard from Editor's Keys, you don't really have to anymore. I did surprise myself a bit with the amount of potential I wasn't tapping into on my keyboard. No pun intended. But I think the sort of user who would stand to gain the absolute most out of this are those who are getting up to speed with learning a new software. There's a visual guide on the keyboard for most of the functions which can be accessed via the keyboard. And the thing about learning new keyboard shortcuts is you never know they exist. They're always hiding in plain sight right on your keyboard until you either look them up or you read about it somewhere or someone tells you about it. So simply knowing the exact key for a function without having to guess would often make the difference between slowly cursor navigating to the feature on screen or getting it instantaneously with a key press. It really is just a keyboard with a cheat sheet printed right onto it. That being said, if you want this on a laptop keyboard or an iPad with Magic Keyboard, or you just prefer to use your Mac's keyboard, Editor's Keys does make keyboard covers with these software-specific labels. But if you go for their standalone keyboards like this one here, what you do get is one very well-made keyboard. The one I'm holding onto is what Editor's Keys calls their new Final Cut Pro keyboard. It's got a hefty, fully metal build with these shiny chamfered edges, which really remind me a lot of the old iPhone 5. It charges via USB Type-C, and despite it being backlit, its official battery life claim is 3 months on one single charge. This backlighting, though, is easily one of my favorite things about this keyboard. It lets you cycle between 3 different intensities of brightness, with also the option to leave it completely off. It's very much not uncommon to have video editing take place in the dark, so adjustable backlighting, big plus. The backlighting also turns itself off after a while of inactivity. This way you won't have to worry about leaving the keyboard powered on. It then kicks back in the moment you press a key. For such a low profile keyboard, the amount of travel you get in each key is also quite generous. For hopping between workstations, the single keyboard can be paired with up to 3 devices over Bluetooth, and you can toggle between them using these 3 buttons in the top right corner of the keyboard. One thing I will note though is if you're the type who heavily customizes the key bindings within your editor, then maybe this keyboard isn't for you, because you're not going to have the keyboard labels magically reprinting themselves after you change your mapping in software. But otherwise, and especially for those learning their way around a new video editing software, a keyboard like this would be a massive head start. I'll leave links below for anyone interested, and I'll see you around.